walk down.
Bob Dylan is not only a musical legend, but also a man constantly searching for deeper meaning in life. His songs, such as Blowin' in the Wind and Like a Rolling Stone, have become symbols of an era, reflecting social upheavals and a strong spirit of resistance. Behind the image of a gifted artist lies a tumultuous spiritual journey, from his Jewish roots to his deep faith in Christianity. Few people know that amidst the dazzling light of fame, Dylan experienced a life-changing moment, an encounter he believed came from Jesus Christ. This spiritual journey not only influenced his personal life, but also reshaped his entire musical career. What led a counterculture icon to embrace faith? Let's explore Dylan's journey now, beginning with his childhood and Jewish heritage. Born on May 24, 1941, in Duluth, Minnesota, Bob Dylan grew up in a close-knit Jewish community. His parents, Abram Zimmerman and Beatrice Beatty Stone, were both descendants of Eastern European immigrants. When Dylan was 6, his family moved to the small town of Hibbing, where his father ran an appliance store. With its harsh winters and quiet small-town atmosphere, Hibbing did not seem like a place for dreamers. However, it was here that young Robert Zimmerman began his musical journey. From an early age, Dylan was captivated by the sounds coming from his family's radio. At first, it was country music from the Grand Ole Opry, where he first heard Hank Williams' haunting voice. Over time, radio waves from Chicago and Louisiana introduced him to a wider musical world. The gritty blues of Muddy Waters, the explosive rock and roll of Little Richard, and the rebellious allure of Elvis Presley. These sounds seeped into the mind of teenage Bob Dylan, planting the seeds of an intense passion. During his time at Hibbing High School, Dylan didn't just listen to music. He wanted to live in it. He joined multiple bands, the most notable being the Golden Chords, where he played rock and roll with unstoppable energy. During school performances, Dylan often surprised audiences with electrifying covers of Little Richard and Elvis songs, to the point where the principal once cut a performance short for being too loud. After graduating, Dylan enrolled at the University of Minnesota in 1959. This was the period when he transitioned from a rock and roll-loving young man to a true folk artist. In Dinkytown, an area filled with artists and young intellectuals, Dylan spent hours in cafes, listening to folk ballads and immersing himself in the music of Woody Guthrie, who would become his greatest idol. It was here that Robert Zimmerman decided to give himself a new name, Bob Dylan, inspired by poet Dylan Thomas. When asked about this decision, he simply smiled. Some people are born with the wrong names given by their parents. I mean, it happens. You name yourself whatever you want. This is the land of the free. In 1961, after moving to New York, his harmonica playing skills caught the attention of Columbia Records. His self-titled debut album mainly featured standard folk and blues songs and failed to achieve commercial success. Even though his first album did not make an impact, Dylan did not lose heart. He continued refining his musical style and vision, and just a year later, his second album marked a major turning point in his career. At the same time, in pursuit of fame and the spotlight, he chose to hide his faith. Hiding his faith in pursuit of fame. Dylan truly broke through with his second album, The Freewheelin' Bob Dylan, which had a strong political edge and showcased his songwriting talent. This album contained classics like Blowin' in the Wind, with its famous line, "The answer, my friend, is blowin' in the wind." As other artists covered his song, Dylan's fame spread worldwide. Continuing to express political views, Dylan became involved in the civil rights movement, a theme reflected in the times They Are A-Changin', which reached the top 20. The album's famous lyrics declared, "Come senators, congressmen, please heed the call for the times. They are a-changin'." Yet, as his faith in protest movements wavered, Dylan quickly released another side of Bob Dylan, which had a lighter, more personal tone. This shift led to criticism from the folk music community, accusing him of leaning toward folk rock and pop. Dylan continued experimenting with music in the albums, bringing it all back home, featuring the hit Mr. Tambourine Man and Highway 61 Revisited, where he blended poetic lyrics with high-energy rock. The latter album, with the iconic song Like a Rolling Stone, is regarded as one of the most influential albums in music history. Following the double album Blonde on Blonde, which embraced a blues rock style, Dylan embarked on a European tour, his last for quite some time. A motorcycle accident led him to retreat from public life and limit his appearances. By 1967, he returned to traditional and acoustic music with the album John Wesley Harding. As his musical career flourished, Dylan became an icon of the counterculture movement, shaping the 1960s. Although he never abandoned his faith, he began to conceal it in his professional life. His relationship with openly religious musicians, such as Johnny Cash, faced challenges. While both were nonconformists, Cash felt that Dylan's lifestyle lacked religious devotion and did not align with moral values. Dylan was not always explicit about his spiritual beliefs, but he consistently believed in the existence of a higher power. He once shared, "I don't think I've ever been an agnostic. I've always believed that there's a superior power, that this world isn't real, and that another world awaits. No soul ever dies. Every soul lives on, either in holiness or in fire, and perhaps there's also some kind of in-between place." He also had faith in the Bible, particularly the signs of the end times in the book of Revelation. Although he always kept God in his heart, Dylan needed a life-changing experience to openly embrace his faith in Jesus Christ. 2 years after his return with John Wesley Harding, Dylan ventured into country music with Nashville Skyline, where he introduced a softer, warmer vocal style. He later explored film, taking on a role in Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid 1973. His soundtrack song Knockin' on Heaven's Door became one of his biggest hits, covered by numerous artists. In 1974, the album Planet Waves earned Dylan his first #1 ranking on the charts. He resumed touring and released the live album Before the Flood. By 1975, despite receiving mixed reviews initially, Blood on the Tracks is now considered one of his greatest albums, featuring the poetic song Tangled Up in Blue. After the creative highs of Planet Waves and Blood on the Tracks, Dylan continued his relentless artistic journey. In 1978, he embarked on a grand-scale tour and underwent a spiritual transformation during this very tour. It was an unexpected event that completely changed his life, marking a crucial turning point leading to his moment of conversion. The moment of conversion in the next chapter. Dylan launched the Rolling Thunder Review, a tour bringing together various artists, while also releasing the album Desire, known for its storytelling style through lengthy songs. In 1978, he took on the roles of director and lead actor in the film Ronaldo and Clara, embarked on a worldwide tour, and released the album Street Legal. During this tour, Dylan experienced a profound spiritual shift, converting to born-again Christianity. As the tour extended, Dylan became physically exhausted and emotionally drained following his divorce from Sarah Lones the previous year. They had been married for 11 years and shared 4 children. During a performance in San Diego, an audience member threw a silver cross onto the stage. Normally, Dylan paid little attention to objects tossed by fans, but this time felt different. He picked up the cross, put it in his pocket, and carried it with him to the next tour stop in Arizona. At a hotel in Tucson, he underwent a dramatic experience that he described as a real visitation from Jesus. In an interview with The Independent, he recalled, "I felt a presence that could only be Jesus. Jesus put his hand on me." Bob Dylan spoke about this spiritual experience that changed his life forever. He recounted, "It was real. I felt it all over my body. The glory of the Lord knocked me down and lifted me up." After this event, he became a follower of Christianity, although he did not fully embrace the term born again. Following his conversion, Dylan focused on creating gospel music, expressing his faith through 3 albums: Slow Train Coming, 1979, Saved, 1980, and Shot of Love, 1981. Many songs from these albums became hits. In particular, Slow Train Coming was ranked 16th on the list of 100 greatest albums in Christian music, featuring standout tracks such as I Believe in You, Gonna Change My Way of Thinking, and When He Returns. This transformation was not embraced by all fans. Many expressed nostalgia for the old Dylan. Fred Tackett, the lead guitarist in his band, recalled seeing an audience member holding a sign that read, "Jesus loves your old songs." Keith Richards, the Rolling Stones guitarist, was skeptical of Dylan's conversion, calling him a prophet who makes a profit. John Lennon was even said to have written "Serve Yourself" as a mockery of Dylan's song, "Gotta Serve Somebody." Critics were also harsh. A writer for the San Francisco Chronicle gave a negative review of Bob Dylan's terrible gospel music, claiming that he had composed some of the most mediocre, uninspired, and uncreative songs of his career. Some fans even protested in creative yet concerning ways, such as atheist activist Madalyn Murray O'Hair and a man dressed in white who walked past the theater where Dylan was performing, carrying a cross. But Dylan never abandoned his spiritual journey. His Protestant faith was clearly reflected in his next 3 albums, including Slow Train Coming, which earned him a Grammy. However, by 1983, he returned to secular music with Infidels. Throughout the 1980s, some of Dylan's albums received mixed reviews, but he continued to experiment and evolve his style. Dylan's spiritual journey remained imprinted on his music, but the public and critics continued to debate the changes in his style and philosophy. As the reception became more polarized, Dylan once again found creative inspiration in a new direction, leading to a triumphant chapter in his career, the formation of the supergroup The Traveling Wilburys. A turning point with the Traveling Wilburys. The turning point came when Dylan joined the supergroup The Traveling Wilburys alongside legends George Harrison, Jeff Lynne, Roy Orbison, and Tom Petty. He also received critical acclaim for the album Oh Mercy, 1989. During this time, he toured with Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, as well as the Grateful Dead, solidifying his place in rock history. In 1988, Dylan launched the Never Ending Tour, a musical journey that continues to this day. And his album Under the Red Sky, 1990, faced criticism for being overly focused on production. Fortunately, he quickly regained his stride with 2 folk and blues-driven albums, Good As I've Been to You and World Gone Wrong, along with the commercially successful live album MTV Unplugged. In May 1997, Bob Dylan faced what was believed to be a near-death experience that almost forced him to step away from his career. He contracted a severe infection called histoplasmosis, which affected the lining around his heart, leading to hospitalization and the cancellation of scheduled performances. Dylan explained that he may have inhaled the spores while near the river by his home, where the wind sometimes blew dust into the air. Ultimately, he overcame this crisis with a renewed desire to live and pursue his journey. After recovering from his serious health issues, Dylan made a powerful comeback with Time Out of Mind, 1997, an introspective and profound album that won him a Grammy. The song Love Sick captured the bitterness and despair of love. I'm sick of love. I wish I'd never met you. Although some critics believed his near-death experience influenced the album's content, the songs on Time Out of Mind had actually been completed and recorded before Dylan was hospitalized. In later interviews, he dismissed the idea that his illness had shaped his songwriting process. In 2001, Dylan won his first Academy Award for Things Have Changed, written for the film Wonder Boys. The song's lyrics reflected his disillusionment with the world. I used to care, but things have changed. Continuing to experiment with music, he released Love and Theft in 2001, an album blending jazz, swing, and rockabilly, which was highly praised by critics. 2 years later, he participated in the tribute project Gotta Serve Somebody, the gospel songs of Bob Dylan, while also starring in and co-writing the film Masked and Anonymous. In 2004, Dylan released his memoir Chronicles, Volume 1, which was warmly received by both readers and critics. This was followed by Martin Scorsese's documentary No Direction Home, 2005, which explored Dylan's life and career in the 1960s. Expanding beyond music and film, Dylan ventured into radio in 2006 as the host of Theme Time Radio Hour. That same year, he released Modern Times, which won another Grammy and reached #1 on the charts. The biographical film I'm Not There, 2007, was later released, featuring multiple characters inspired by Dylan's various personas throughout his career. In 2009, at the age of 67, Dylan continued to break records with the album Together Through Life, making him the oldest artist to debut an album at #1 on the Billboard chart. He then participated in a special charity project during the holiday, season with Christmas in the heart, delivering warm Christmas songs. Although he constantly innovated in music, from radio DJing to chart-topping albums, Dylan's spiritual journey remained an inseparable part of his life. He stayed steadfast in his beliefs, openly sharing his thoughts on public reactions and revealing unpublished compositions, giving audiences deeper insight into his inner world. Once again, Dylan reaffirmed his influence in the music industry, continuing his spiritual journey and influence. Dylan stated that he found spirituality in music. While his musical focus had shifted, he occasionally performed his old gospel songs during tours. Most reports suggested that he had returned to Judaism, possibly Orthodox Judaism. His son also had a bar mitzvah. Regardless of his faith practice, he maintained his belief in God. In a 2004 60 Minutes interview, he told Ed Bradley, "The press, the media, they're not the judge. God's the judge. The only person you have to think twice about lying to is either yourself or God." He also mentioned that his touring schedule was part of a deal with the chief commander on this earth and in the world we can't see. Dylan never paid much attention to public reactions to his conversion. He stated, "I'm following Jesus, and they're going to follow Jesus." In a 2022 interview with the Wall Street Journal, Bob Dylan reaffirmed his religious beliefs. He shared, "I read the Bible regularly, meditate, pray, and light candles in church. I believe in damnation, redemption, and even predestination. The 5 books of Moses, the epistles of Paul, the invocation of saints, all of it." It was no surprise that Bob Dylan's music often appeared in bootleg recordings due to his immense influence. And this time, Dylan himself took the initiative to release a bootleg collection. The 13th volume in his bootleg series, titled Trouble No More, covering 1979 to 81, was an 8 CD collection featuring 14 previously unreleased songs. This album included rare recordings, rehearsal tracks, and songs he had once deemed unfit for official release. If Trouble No More provided an authentic glimpse into Dylan's controversial gospel era, a newly released book continued to unveil deeper aspects of his life and artistic vision. A book titled Bob Dylan, Mixing Up the Medicine was published, inspired by a lyric from his song Subterranean Homesick Blues. Edited by Mark Davidson and Parker Fischel from the Bob Dylan Center in Tulsa. The book offered the most in-depth perspective on his life and career. It compiled numerous photographs, handwritten lyrics, sketches, and archival materials from Dylan. Mark Davidson revealed, "One of the surprising discoveries we found in his notebooks and drafts was his ability to predict his own career. Even as a teenager, he had a diverse musical taste and deep knowledge." The book did not shy away from Dylan's spiritual journey. It emphasized, if you examine the documents in his archives, such as his handwritten lyrics, you can see that he had been contemplating faith long before his dramatic conversion. These themes were always present in his music. The spiritual experience was simply the final push for him to focus on them. Mark Davidson and Parker Fischel also refuted critics of Dylan's gospel music, who had claimed that his conversion was merely a result of the evangelical movement's surge at the time. Looking back on Dylan's journey, there is no denying that he was more than just a great musician. Bob Dylan became a cultural icon, revolutionizing popular music and serving as the voice of the counterculture generation. With his talent in songwriting, music, and artistry, he is regarded as one of the most influential figures of the 20th century. What about you? Which Bob Dylan album impressed you the most? Share your thoughts in the comments below.